A hard-fought Subway Series had a brutal end as one disastrous inning cost the Mets.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. I've been covering the New York Mets on this show since the 2019 season. This is the only podcast that covers the Mets 7 days a week throughout the regular season. If you wanted to find any of my written work, you could do so over at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Well, the Subway Series had a bitter end for Mets fans. A couple of really tough losses. Obviously, the first one was just a meltdown by Tyler McGill that the Mets never could recover from. Second game, they win it in a narrow one-run game. Then the final one was shaping up to be a very similar game to the one we saw unfold on Saturday, where it was close all the way through. It was going to come down to one or two plays that would decide the game, and that sort of played out in the Yankees' favor, but a disastrous eighth inning, which ends with a Cody Bellinger grand slam, makes this game look a lot more lopsided than it really was. But through the first 7 innings of the final game of this Subway Series on Sunday Night Baseball, these two teams were going back and forth, and it was a great pitcher's duel between Max Fried and David Peterson. And I thought the Mets did the best that they could against a pitcher as dialed in as Max Fried is right now. I mean, Fried, all of a sudden, he's throwing 97 in this game with the adrenaline he had pumping, and he has been so good for the Yankees all year long. It's a tough matchup. It's not one that you're going to often win when you have a pitcher that has this much talent, who is as experienced as Fried is, particularly with this lineup, who is riding this level of a heater. That's a tough thing to combat. But I think the Mets did as good as they could because you know what? They got Fried out of the game after 6 innings, and the game was still tied at that point. So in a lot of ways, if you asked me before the game started, would I have signed up for the first 6 innings of this game the way they played out? Yeah, I think everything went as well as it could have for the Mets. Perfect example, the first inning, it was a 1-2-3 frame for Max Fried. But each of those hitters in the first inning, Lindor, Soto, and Alonso, saw at least 6 pitches in their at-bat. None of them went down easy. And Alonso saw 8 pitches, so Fried ends up at 20 pitches in a 1-2-3 inning. And he didn't strike out any of them. Now, the one mistake in the first 6 innings of the game for the Mets was Mark Vientos on the first play of the game with the Yankees. Just get ahead of myself. A little Red Sox thrown in there. So I just finished writing up my series preview that'll be coming in the final segment. But in the first inning for the Yankees up, Mark Vientos gets a ground ball he's got to run in on, has a great jump on it, goes to field it, and just doesn't come up with the ball. And so that was a bad error, which helped contribute to a tough first inning for David Peterson. Now, Peterson was still at fault for the runs on the scoreboard because he gave 2 doubles. But he should have faced Aaron Judge with 2 outs, nobody on. Instead, there was a runner on. Aaron Judge doubles. That puts 2 runners on for Cody Bellinger. Bellinger had an unbelievable game. He doubles to score 2 runs, but that was really it. David Peterson was able to ride that turbulent first inning, ride the wave of that inning, gets a couple groundouts, gets out of the inning, and then was able to just really hold the Yankees there the rest of the game. Meanwhile, the Mets were able to claw their way back in it. Mark Vientos hits a little chopper, and he gets an infield hit, which you're not going to see a lot of with his speed in the second inning to lead things off. Brandon Nimmo draws a walk. After Starling Marte and Francisco Alvarez both struck out, Jeff McNeil ambushed Fried, was hunting the first pitch that he could hit, and he got one, ripped a line drive up the middle, and was able to get the first run on the board for the Mets. And then he ended up scoring the second run in the 5th inning, drew a leadoff walk, advanced to second on a bump by Acuna, advanced to third on a ground out by Lindor, and then comes home on a wild pitch. But that's all the Mets got on Fried. You look at the final line for both of these pitchers. Fried goes 6 innings, allows 3 hits, 2 walks, struck out 8. David Peterson also went 6 innings, allowed 3 hits as well, 2 runs, only one of them earned, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts, lowered his ERA to 2.86 on the season. Over the past couple of days throughout this series, I've really been focusing in on the performance of these starting pitchers in a playoff atmosphere at Yankee Stadium and Juan Soto's return, sold out crowd, crazy energy in the crowd. And I think one of the biggest takeaways on the positive side for the Mets is what Griffin Canning and David Peterson did over the last 2 days, really giving this team a chance. And I think Peterson, this is just another moment where he solidified what he showed in October last year. This is a guy that's not going to get fazed by the big moment, and he can be a real player for the Mets in October again if they're fortunate enough to get there. He can be a guy gets starts this year instead of someone that moves into the bullpen like he did last year so well. But if he's in the same role, you know that he can thrive in it. I thought really the most impressive inning for Peterson was the 5th inning, where he had to get through that top of the lineup, and he was intentional with who he pitched to. Walks Paul Goldschmidt because he wants Trent Grisham, left on left. Gets Grisham out. Wants no part of Aaron Judge. The Mets don't even want him to face Aaron Judge. They intentionally walk Judge. Cody Bellinger comes up, pitches around him. Then he gets the matchup that he wants on Anthony Volpe, gets a ground out to get out of it. So I just thought that, the way that he was pitching carefully to those guys that can really burn you, that is a testament to a intelligent starting pitcher that has just continued to round into his own here. And I just think he is really a solid piece in this rotation moving forward. I think he's the most dependable arm the Mets have right now, just because of my faith in his ability to take the ball every 5 or 6 days. Whereas Kodai Senga, there's still just the wonder about, is he going to be able to stay healthy for the whole marathon of a season? But I thought it was a great start by Peterson. He pitched a Cy Young contender right now to a draw, and it was really impressive. And then, I talk about Volpe blowing a bases loaded opportunity for the Yankees. That came up again when Huascar Brazoban was on the mound in the 7th inning. Brazoban had just a rough inning overall. He ends up loading the bases, really struggled, and then he falls behind on Volpe 3-0. And Volpe got himself out. Brazoban did locate a 3-0 pitch to get into the at-bat, but then Volpe chased 3 pitches out of the zone. And I don't even think it was pitches that Brazoban, or I know they weren't pitches that Brazoban was trying to throw out of the zone. But Volpe, swings and fouls off a couple pitches and then chases one that was just a sinker in on him, and he just swings through it. And a huge moment for the Mets, big momentum shift where I really thought the Mets were going to win when they got bailed out of that jam by Volpe. I really thought that they were going to be able to grab onto that momentum of not giving up a run in that spot and once again do what the Mets have done all year, which is find their way to a victory in these tight games. Just didn't happen because the 8th inning was absolutely brutal. Ryan Stanek might not get much flack because Pete Alonso made the Lucas Duda airmail play that's going to drive fans up the wall, and it just a horrible play. And Alonso took all of the blame for what happened to the Mets in this game. But you can't ignore that Ryan Stanek didn't really pitch well. He issues a leadoff walk to Jason Dominguez. You can't do that to this Yankees lineup. When you know what's coming at the top of the lineup, you can't just issue a free pass. I mean, you never can, especially to lead off an inning. But that was a bad walk, especially when he started off in a 1-2 count and just lost him. He strikes out DJ LeMahieu. And look, Stanek he had the adrenaline pumping. We saw 101 out of Ryan Stanek tonight, and he was throwing hard. But I felt like he kind of fell in love with his fastball and never had his splitter. And that was ultimately what cost him. You can't go into any appearance with one pitch and expect to get guys out. With Austin Wells, he did go to the splitter a little bit more, and he hung one, and Austin Wells ripped the double. So you have walk, double. Then you have an opportunity. You're going up against 24-year-old rookie Jorbit Vivas, who's hitting 167 on the year. And Stanek had the mindset he was just going to blow fastballs by him. Got ahead in the count 0-2. But he could not put him away. And Vivas fouled off 6 pitches in the at-bat. He threw 1 splitter in 11 pitch at-bat. Now, granted, he eventually did get a ground ball. So he would have won the at-bat if Pete Alonso fielded it cleanly, made a good throw home. Well, he did field it cleanly. If Pete Alonso made a good throw home instead of completely airmailing it and just having a horrible error in the worst of times on a play that he made yesterday. But I just want to acknowledge that, again, if Ryan Stanek had not issued a leadoff walk and gets DJ LeMahieu out, could be a completely different inning. And when he's ahead on a rookie 0-2, if he can just throw a good splitter with conviction, 0-2, and he was throwing fastball after fastball after fastball. If he can just throw one good splitter, he would get Vivas out in front because here he is gearing up for 100 every time. And he could have gotten the strikeout. And maybe that's the difference. I mean, look, Pete's got to make that play. There's no doubt about it. But Ryan Stanek is a streaky reliever. And when the streaks are good, you're going to get some awesome performances like we saw in October. When the streaks are bad, I don't trust him at the end of games. And right now, outside of Edwin Diaz and Reed Garrett, although Garrett's going through his own struggles right now, there's not a lot of trust at the end of games. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in the next segment. But to put a bow on this game, Genesis Cabrera comes in to face the lefties. He walks Trent Grisham, a lefty, has an extraordinarily impressive strikeout of Aaron Judge. Then here comes the other lefty in Cody Bellinger. And Bellinger just, I guess, knew what was coming. Was sitting for a fastball, got one inside, and just turned on it. And that's the talent level of Cody Bellinger. Hits a grand slam, and that's the ball game, basically. And there's nothing else to say about it. So the Mets lose the Subway Series. But the question now is, are there real problems at hand for the Mets? Because you look at how they started the season. They were 21-9 through 30 games. Over their last 17 games, they're 8-9. They're playing one game under 500. They're playing 500 baseball for a little over 2 weeks now. Is there something wrong with the Mets? Are they really still that awesome standout first place team in the NL East, or is this a team that's going to get passed up by the Phillies soon? We're going to talk about all of that in just a minute. First, though, quick word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better fuel and saturated fats to help you feel fuller, longer. Personally, I love the no-shells variety of Wonderful Pistachios. Smoky barbecue is my favorite, but I also really love the honey roasted flavor. And whatever flavor you choose, it's just a perfect grab-and-go snack when you have the no-shells variety. Just reach into the bag, pull out a handful whenever you're hungry, and chow down on a delicious snack. But also, if you love opening every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. Wonderful Pistachios is a complete protein providing all 9 essential amino acids. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. If you're watching on YouTube today, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Help us get to our next goal of 14,000 subscribers. Now, if you look at the Mets season so far, they lose their opening series in Houston. Then they go on a nice little run. They win 4 series in a row. They square off against the Twins. They lose the series. Then they reel off a 7-game winning streak, sweeping the Cardinals and the Phillies for a perfect homestand. They then go to D.C. They split a 4-game series against the Nationals where they probably should have won all 4 games. They come home, they lose to the Diamondbacks, and then they go to St. Louis and they lose to the Cardinals, getting swept in a doubleheader. But after that, they go to Arizona. They beat the Diamondbacks in a hard-fought series. They come home. There's a lot of attention on the Mets squaring off against the Cubs. They win that series, and then they beat the Pirates in another series. So now, today, Mets fans are driving to work, and they might be, just dreading seeing that Yankees fan in the office who's about to just give them all kinds of grief about the weekend that was. And, you might have a family relative that shot you some text messages last night that you didn't like, and it's just a tough day. And you listen to what I said in the last segment. The Mets started 21-9, and they're 8-9 their last 17 games, and you are pissed. You're wondering, oh no, is this not a good Mets team? Is this just one of those Mets teams that we've seen in the past that gets off to a hot start and everything eventually is going to fall apart? I'm here to tell you that you got nothing to worry about. Okay, yes, it's a tough day because for Juan Soto return weekend, the Yankees got everything they wanted. Not only did they win the series, they win their 2 games in blowout fashion. They get great performances by Aaron Judge, which there's going to be now a sort of battle to follow of former teammates, now adversaries playing right field in New York, Soto, Judge, and Judge definitely had a better series. He had some big moments. Juan Soto kind of put up a goose egg. He didn't have a good series. You have Max Fried, who was the first pivot after Soto. He had a great start. You had Bellinger and Goldschmidt, the 2 key cogs of the plan B from Soto. Big money acquisitions, well, particularly Bellinger, but guys that they brought in who have some winning pedigree to them, really good players throughout their careers that are supposed to step up and give Aaron Judge that support. And they both had really good series, particularly Bellinger, who just flatly won them this game, the final game of the series, and won them the series with that. Yeah, it all went the Yankees' way. Here's one thing, though, that they're never going to be able to truly get over. Juan Soto's still a Met, and he will be for the next 15 years. And they still have Lindor, and they still have the guy atop it all, David Stearns, making the right decisions. And this team's going to be fine. Now, when you're looking at where the Mets are at, yes, 8-9 over the last 17 games. With that said, they won 3 series in a row prior to this weekend. So how bad can it really be when you've won 3 of your last 4 series? Now, if they had swept any of those series, the record looks a lot different. They didn't. They probably should have swept the Pirates, but whatever. Here they are. Still doing great on the season. Still have, by ERA, the best pitching staff in baseball. Still have a lot of really good hitters in that lineup. Yeah, their division lead right now is half a game, but guess what? It's going to be a marathon between the Mets and the Phillies, and I don't think that the Mets are going to lead this division nearly wire to wire. I don't think that's going to happen. I would not be surprised at all if the Mets go into Boston, have a tough series, maybe come home. The Dodgers might get them. It might be a bad week ahead. We really don't know. And the Phillies could get out in front in this division, but you know what? Coming up on the schedule, you got the White Sox, you got the Rockies. You still think that this is a team that can go out and beat the Red Sox and Fenway, certainly, and we'll talk about that in the next segment, or a team that can beat the Dodgers at home or even go into LA and beat the Dodgers. I have lost zero faith in this Mets team overall. I really have, or haven't lost any. Now, there are isolated problems that are present, but there's time to solve them. I think the first question right now is the infield, particularly the infield defense. Now, I don't think there's any world where Pete Alonso is not the starting first baseman for the New York Mets all year and they move him to DH. Don't think it's happening. And yes, Mark Vientos would probably make that throw, but would he have fielded the ground ball cleanly if he was playing first base? Like if that was your long-term solution, if you were so pissed at that ground ball today that you're thinking, man, Pete's got to be the DH. That's not going to happen. So the question really is third base and second base. Who's going to land those 2 spots? You look at Vientos. He has not played good defense at all. With that said, he's hitting .295 over his last 30 games with an OPS well over 800. I'm not worried about his bat. Now, is he going to figure it out defensively? We'll see. Got the rest of the season to prove that he can still be the guy at third base. But it just depends on the roster because if Brett Beatty, who did have some ugly at-bats in this series and played great defense, if Beatty hits and he proves he can hit sustainably, you might see Vientos as DH and Beatty at third. I think that is the best version of the Mets potentially, but it requires Beatty to sustain success at the big league level, which he's never done. So we'll see if he can do that. And then you look at Acuna, great defender. He's hitting 190 over his last 15 games played. It's been a real struggle for Luis Angel Acuna. Can he snap out of it? Absolutely. Is he ever going to be a plus offensive player? I don't know. And then you have the wild card in the mix, which is Ronnie Mauricio, who Could be the second baseman, could be the third baseman. He's going to play both spots as well as shortstop in Syracuse now that he's there. Got his first game under his belt in Syracuse on Sunday, went 2 for 4, played 8 innings at second base. But it's still going to take time. He's got to play down there for at least a month, if not a lot longer than that, before you even know if he can be a real-time difference maker on the Mets. And then he still has to get his feet wet at the big league level, something he never really has done. He got a month in the 2023 season. But he's missed a lot of development time. So is he going to be able to contribute to a winner this year? I don't know. But then you have Jeff McNeil. And right now, Jeff McNeil, to me, he's still probably the betting favorite to be the Mets starting second baseman if they make the playoffs. I honestly still believe that because you know what? Say what you want about McNeil. A lot of people don't like him or whatever it is at this point, but through 19 games, he's walked more than he struck out. He's got an 836 OPS, and he does give you a much better at-bat than Luis Angel Acuna right now. Can that change? Are they going to keep running him out there in center field? I mean, who knows what the season holds for the Mets. But I think the big place I land, or the big conclusion I have about the infield situation right now is there is problems, but I think internally the Mets have solutions because that's not even mentioning Jet Williams, who's gotten off to a great start this year in Double-A. That's another option for them. So with all that said, I don't think that is a big problem. I think it's a problem that will be solved organically as the year goes on, the same way Vientos and Jose Iglesias solidified that infield last year. And I think that when you have Juan Soto, Brandon Nimmo, Pete Alonso, and Francisco Lindor, and I'll throw Mark Vientos into that mix as well, this lineup is going to hit. Right now, is it hitting as much as it should? No. Will it come around? I still believe it will. Then you have the pitching side of things. It's still the best staff ERA in the game. Yes, they had a blow-up, disgusting inning tonight. But they're starting pitchers who most would consider back-end starters on their team, Griffin Canning and David Peterson. Guys who aren't considered frontline guys by any stretch of the imagination. I would say Peterson has maybe established himself as a middle-of-the-rotation guy, but Canning was expected to be the 7th or 8th starter on this team, and right now he's pitched he's pitched much better than that so far this year. Those two guys went into a tough environment and had good starts. Now, Tyler McGill got some isolated questions on, which we've talked about over the weekend. But guess what? Frankie Montas might be back next month. Sean Manaea could be back next month, if not July. Paul Blackburn is honestly probably ready now. He's in rehab purgatory. Well, with all that said, if McGill ends up being an issue, they have answers to solve that problem. The other thing is the back end of the bullpen, but I trust David Stearns to figure it out. Whether it's prospects who step up, whether it's midseason acquisitions like Phil Maton, who was great for the Mets in the regular season last year, and Ryan Stanek, who was great for the Mets in the postseason. So, do the Mets have problems? Should you be worried about the New York Mets as you're driving to work this morning? No, you shouldn't. They're a good baseball team. They'll figure it out. I've had a very long show so far today, but we still have a Red Sox series to preview, so I'm going to get to all that in just a minute. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never a better time to get in on the action. And FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game because before tip-off and live, there's player props, there's performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And it's not just the NBA action. You're a baseball fan, listen to this show. Maybe you think Kodai Senga is going to have a great start tonight. You could take his strikeouts with the Mets to win in a same-game parlay, and if Senga pitches well and the Mets win, you win big. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet, and if it wins, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. If you're an everydayer that's always tuning into the show, make sure you become a Locked On Mets Insider. This is our texting service where you get updates from me anytime news breaks in the Mets. You can ask me questions anytime, take part in our Locked On Mets sign photo giveaways, and get the line graphic sent to your phone each day so you know who's in the starting lineup without ever having to go on social media. If you want to be a Locked On Mets Insider, find the link in the episode description. Go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. All right, so let's talk about this series coming up here. Mets versus Red Sox at Fenway Park. Always cool to watch games played in Boston in that iconic ballpark. And the Mets are going into this series against a Red Sox team that has more expectations than the ones that you might have seen over the last couple of years. The Red Sox had a big offseason. They went out, they made the biggest trade of the offseason, bringing in their ace, Garrett Crochet. They signed Walker Buehler. They, at the end of the offseason, signed Alex Bregman. They made a lot of moves to put themselves in position to contend. And in a wide-open American League, they very well should be a real contender in that wild card race. Are they ready to topple the Yankees? Doesn't look like it. And so far, it's been a little bit of a rougher start to the season. They're 5 games back in the division. They're 2 games under 500. They've lost 6 of their last 10. And more closely, the last 2 series, they got swept by the Tigers. They came home, and the Braves came to town and won a series. So they have lost 5 of their last 6 games, or that's what they did last week. You look at the makeup of this team, they are a very good offensive bunch. They are 6th right now in team OPS on the season. They are 6th right now in runs scored on the season, 7th in home runs. They have a very dangerous lineup. On the pitching side of things, a little more towards the back of the pack. 20th in team ERA, 24th in starter ERA, and that's with Garrett Crochet being unbelievable. We'll get to him in a minute. Their bullpen's been average to slightly better than average, a 3.72 ERA. So this is a team where you want to get on their starting pitchers, and the first 2 present an opportunity, I think, for the Mets before they have to face off against Crochet in the final game of the series. So first things first, game 1 tonight, Kodai Senga going up against Hunter Dobbins. Now we know how good Senga has been all year. He is right now, I believe he's still qualified, leading the National League in ERA the last I checked. I feel all the confidence in the world with Senga on the mound right now, so it's going to be exciting to see what he does with this Red Sox lineup that he hasn't seen much of. So it'll be cool to watch him navigate that. But the fact that he hasn't seen a lot of them, it also means they haven't seen a lot of him. And so there's going to be a lot of hitters that are looking at that ghost fork for the first time, and he can do some real damage against them. So you think you have to feel pretty confident in the Mets' ability to shake off the rough Subway Series loss and take the first game of this series. And really, if they want to win this series, it's kind of a must win because this is their clearest pitching advantage. It's Senga versus Hunter Dobbins. Dobbins is a rookie who's made 5 starts this year, has a 3.90 ERA. He's got some pretty good breaking balls, particularly a slider. Fastball average is 95, but has been hit a little bit hard this year. 321 average against. Slugging percentage close to 500 against it. So a pitch that the Mets can certainly do some damage on if they're able to get in some counts so that where they can hunt that fastball and, really do some damage against this guy because he is a rookie that's still inexperienced that you figure the Mets with their veteran lineup should be able to get on a little bit, but he's good at pounding the strike zone. He's one of the best in baseball right now at commanding the strike zone and not issuing walks. So that's going to be an opportunity for the Mets to be aggressive, hopefully, and, maybe get some big hits and hopefully drive the baseball a lot and score a bunch of runs after a weekend where they did not nearly score enough. Now, game 2 of this series will be Clay Holmes, who's been great lately, going up against Walker Buehler. Walker Buehler was on the IL since May 2nd, but he'll be returning for his start on Tuesday. He said if it was the end of the season, he probably would have pushed through it. It was a shoulder injury, but he feels good now, ready to go. Has a 4.28 ERA through 6 starts this year. So, yes, Buehler dominated the Mets in the playoffs and is a good starting pitcher, but he's not the caliber of an arm that they're about to see in the final game of the series. He's a guy that they should be able to hopefully get some runs off of, especially as he's coming off a little bit of a respite here, 2 weeks on the IL. Now, game 3, I feel absolutely zero confidence in because not only is Garrett Crochet going for the Red Sox, Tyler McGill will be getting another shot to go out there and prove that he can figure things out and hold on to a rotation spot. I don't love McGill in this ballpark. I really don't. With the way that he pitched against the Yankees, I'm nervous about this game, especially because Crochet has been unbelievable. Has an ERA of 2 so far this season in his first 10 starts in a Red Sox uniform. 73 strikeouts and 63 innings pitched. He's been awesome, and I expect him to continue to be awesome. So it's going to be very similar to what we saw this past series. Kind of mirrors it, where you have the stud left-hander on a new team who's a Cy Young candidate that you have to go up against. in the final game of the series. So if you want to win the series, win it before the potential rubber match, and then see what you can do against Crochet. Last year, Crochet was great against the Mets, but remember Lindor got him. So we'll see. We'll see how the Mets navigate that game, but I'll be doing previews of each game as they draw closer throughout the week, because I'll be giving you shows all week long, 7 days a week, as always. Appreciate all of you for tuning in today. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button to help us get closer to our next goal of 14,000 subscribers. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find the link in the episode description and go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen or your first watch every day, not for your second watch. Head over to YouTube and check out the first ever 24/7 streaming channel that covers everything in the world of sports. I'm talking about Locked On Sports Today, the local hosts from each team, league-wide hosts from each league. Find Locked On Sports Today streaming 24/7 on YouTube.